My parents expected me to fund their luxury retirement, declaring, "We gave you life, you owe us everything." When I said no, they threatened to disown me and screamed, "You'll regret this." A month later they called begging for money, but I coldly replied, "Funny, because you already disowned me, remember?" They sat in silence as I hung up. I never thought I'd cut my own parents out of my life. If you had told me a few years ago that I'd be sitting here, writing this, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we are. Growing up, my parents always made it clear that everything they did for me was a favor, not a responsibility. Feeding me, clothing me, giving me a place to sleep, none of it was just because they loved me. No, it was all an investment. One they expected a return on. And I was supposed to pay up. The second I landed a well-paying job, my parents decided it was their turn to reap the rewards. They didn't want help with groceries or medical bills. They wanted me to fund their dream retirement. I said no, and they lost their minds. My parents weren't poor. They weren't rich either, but we had a decent life in Chicago. My dad worked in construction, my mom did admin work. We weren't struggling, but they acted like every dollar was their last. Everything I got came with a guilt trip. You want new shoes? Do you think money grows on trees? Your school wants $20 for a field trip? Do you have any idea how much we do for you? College? You better get a scholarship. We're not paying a dime. They made it sound like letting me exist was a massive sacrifice. I started working young, under-the-table jobs, cash tips, whatever I could do. By the time I was 18, I had already learned that if I wanted something, I had to get it myself. So I did. I worked my ass off. Got into the University of Illinois, paid my way through with scholarships, part-time jobs, and sheer stubbornness. While my friends were partying, I was pulling double shifts. By 26, I had a degree in engineering and a six-figure job. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. I had zero debt, a solid savings account, and plans for the future. My parents had nothing. No savings. No retirement fund. No plan. And they had decided that I was their retirement plan. It started small. A few hints. Mom, you make good money now. Maybe you can send us a little something every month? Dad, your mother and I would love to move somewhere warm. Maybe Florida? A nice condo by the beach? I ignored it at first. But then the requests got bolder. Mom, I was looking at Teslas. They're expensive, but you can make the payments, right? Dad, a lot of people your age help their parents out. It's the least you could do. Then came the real bombshell. They wanted me to co-sign a mortgage for a $700,000 house in Naples, Florida. Not help with rent. Not chip in for a down payment. They wanted me to put my name on the loan for a house they couldn't afford and had no intention of paying for. I told them no. Mom's face dropped like I had slapped her. After everything we've done for you? You think you got that job all on your own? Who raised you? Who fed you? You think you'd be successful without us? I reminded her that I had paid for everything myself. Dad scoffed. Yeah, and who raised you to be responsible, huh? Who put a roof over your head? You wouldn't be here without us. We gave you life. You owe us. That was their favorite line. We gave you life. As if that meant they owned me. The next few days were hell. My parents blew up my phone. Long texts. Voicemails dripping with anger and guilt. We're your parents. You should want to help us. What kind of son turns his back on his family? Fine. If you're going to be selfish, don't expect us to be in your life. Then, the nuclear option. Mom called me, voice ice cold. You are no longer our son. If you won't support us, we'll disown you. Don't come crawling back when you realize what a horrible mistake you've made. I was stunned for a second. Then I just laughed. Okay. Have a nice life. And I hung up. They stuck to it. For a whole month, I didn't hear a word from them. No calls. No texts. Nothing. Then, one night, my phone rang. Mom. I stared at the screen for a second. Then I picked up. The moment I said hello, I heard crying. Not the angry, manipulative tears she used when she didn't get her way. This was different. We need help. I didn't say anything. Just waited. We thought we had it figured out. She sniffled. But we made some bad decisions. Turns out, they had already moved to Florida. They had no jobs, no money, and no backup plan. They had burned through everything. Mom kept talking. Kept begging. We just need a little to get back on our feet. Just a few thousand. I sat there listening. Dad got on the phone next. His voice wasn't angry anymore. It was small. Look, son, We might have overreacted. We just need some help. I let the silence stretch. Then I said 6 words. I sat there, gripping my phone, letting their words hang in the air. My parents had made their bed. Now they were lying in it, broke, stranded, and desperate. A month ago, they were living the high life, treating themselves like royalty, convinced that I'd come crawling back with open arms and a fat checkbook. Now, they were begging. And I wasn't feeling generous. I took a deep breath and finally spoke. Funny, because you already disowned me. Remember? Silence. For the first time in my life, my parents had nothing to say. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Dad muttered, "Come on, son, don't be like this." I almost laughed. Now I was. Son. Again? I should have hung up right then. I should have let them stew in their own mess. But something made me hesitate. Not pity. Not guilt. Curiosity. I wanted to know exactly how bad it had gotten. What happened? I asked, voice cold. Mom sniffled. We lost the condo. Turns out, my parents had gone all in on their Florida dream life. They had rented an expensive condo in Naples, using what little savings they had to make it seem like they were well off. They figured that once I came around, I'd start sending money to cover the rent and bills. Except I never did. With no income and no savings, they lasted exactly 3 months before the landlord kicked them out. Then things got worse. They had maxed out their credit cards, assuming I'd eventually do the right thing and take over payments. They had burned bridges with friends and extended family, talking big about how they were set for life, thanks to their successful son. Now, they were living in a rundown motel off the highway, scraping by on whatever temp work they could find. Mom's voice shook as she confessed the next part. We had to sell some things. Your father's tools, my jewelry, even the car. I felt nothing. They had treated me like a walking ATM, and now they were shocked the machine wasn't dispensing cash. But I wasn't done. So why are you calling me? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Mom took a deep breath, as if she were about to make a grand sacrifice. We'll forgive you. I blinked. Excuse me? Dad cleared his throat. We were upset. Maybe we said things we didn't mean. But we're still family. And family takes care of each other. There it was. Not an apology. Not an admission of guilt. Just another attempt to manipulate me. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You're offering to forgive me, if I send you money? Mom sounded offended. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Dad sighed. Look, we can't live like this. We need help. Just enough to get back on our feet. How much? Mom hesitated. 10, maybe 15,000. I almost choked. You think I have 15 grand lying around? Mom sniffled again. Of course you do. You make 6 figures. That's nothing to you. There it was. The entitlement. No, I said simply. Mom's voice immediately turned sharp. You selfish little brat. You'd rather watch your own parents suffer? Dad jumped in. You really want to do this? You want to turn your back on us? And then, the twist. We know you have the money, Dad said suddenly. We saw the account. My heart stopped. What? Mom, suddenly emboldened, spat out. Your savings. We saw your bank statement. We know you have enough. Cold fear shot through me. How the hell did they see my bank account? Explain, I said, voice like ice. Mom hesitated. That's when I knew. She had done something. I opened my laptop, my hands slightly shaking. Logged into my bank. And my stomach dropped. There it was. A pending transaction. $4,500 withdrawn. From a joint account I had forgotten even existed. When I first started college, my parents had helped me open an account for student expenses. I had switched to my own accounts after graduation, but I never closed the original one. And somehow, my parents had still been able to access it. I saw red. You stole from me, I said, my voice deadly calm. Mom had the audacity to sound offended. We didn't steal, we just borrowed. You weren't even using that money. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's my savings. For emergencies. For my future. And you just helped yourself? Dad scoffed. Don't be so dramatic. It was only a few thousand. You'll make it back in no time. That's when I snapped. I was done. With the manipulation. With the guilt trips. With the entitlement. I took a deep breath. Then I said 4 words. I stared at the bank statement, my blood boiling. $4,500. Gone. They had stolen from me. And they still had the nerve to act like they were the victims. I was done playing nice. You have 5 seconds to explain, I said, my voice calm but ice cold. Mom, never the actress, gasped like I was overreacting. We told you. It's just a loan. We were going to put it back. With what money? I snapped. You don't have jobs. You don't even have a place to live. How exactly were you planning to put it back? Dad scoffed. Jesus, kid, it's not that serious. It's just money. We raise you, and this is how you treat us. Ah, there it was. The ultimate gaslight. They wanted me to believe I was being unreasonable. That I was the one hurting them. Except this time, I wasn't falling for it. I took a deep breath, my grip tightening around my phone. You have 24 hours to return the money. Mom laughed bitterly. Or what? I smirked. You'll find out. And then I hung up. I wasn't bluffing. Within the hour, I was at my bank, shutting down the old joint account and reporting the unauthorized withdrawal. Turns out, since the account had originally been under my name, I had legal grounds to dispute the transaction. The bank flagged the withdrawal as fraud. My parents had used the money to pay 2 months' rent at the motel. That payment? Reversed. They were officially broke again. That night, I got an email from a credit monitoring service. I almost didn't check it. But something told me to open it. A new credit card application had been filed under my name. I felt my stomach drop. I hadn't applied for any new cards. I clicked through, heart pounding, and saw the application details. The requested card? A Platinum Rewards Visa. Credit limit, $20,000. The contact information? My parents' motel address. They had tried to open a credit card in my name. I felt my hands clench into fists. This wasn't just entitlement anymore. This was full-blown identity theft. I called the credit card company immediately, flagged it as fraud, and reported the attempted identity theft. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I called the police. The next day, I got a call from a Florida detective. They had checked the motel and confirmed that my parents had attempted to open the fraudulent account. Now, under normal circumstances, the bank might have just denied the application and moved on. But because they had already stolen money from my account, the two incidents together escalated the case. They were now under investigation for fraud and identity theft. And that's when things got really interesting. A week later, I got another email from my bank. It was a notification about a missed loan payment. Except I hadn't taken out any loans. I clicked on the details. Loan balance, $32,000. Co-signers, my parents. My jaw clenched. I had never agreed to co-sign any loans. I dug deeper and found out exactly what happened. A year earlier, before they had disowned me, my parents had applied for a personal loan and put me down as a co-signer, without telling me. At the time, I had just bought my own place, so I hadn't been actively checking my credit report. They had been making minimum payments to keep it hidden, fully expecting me to take over once they guilted me back into their lives. Except now? They had stopped paying. And suddenly, that debt was coming for me. I was done. They had stolen from me. They had tried to commit identity fraud. They had trapped me in debt. And now? Now, they were going to face the consequences. I called my lawyer. Then I called the bank's fraud department. And then? I filed a lawsuit. I was going to legally sever myself from their mess. And I was going to make sure they felt every second of it. I sat in my lawyer's office, flipping through the evidence I had gathered against my parents. Bank statements. Fraud alerts. The co-signed loan I never agreed to. It was all here. And it was damning. So, my lawyer said, looking over the documents. You want to go through with this? I hesitated for a second. Suing your own parents isn't exactly something you dream about as a kid. But after everything? They had done this to themselves. Yes, I said. I want my name off that loan. And I want my money back. A few days later, my parents got served. The lawsuit officially hit them like a freight train, and they lost it. I expected angry calls. I got worse. They showed up at my house. I opened my door to see Mom standing there, her face red, Dad behind her with his fists clenched. You little! Mom screamed, shoving the legal papers in my face. You're suing your own family? I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. You stole from me. You committed fraud. What did you think was going to happen? Dad jabbed a finger at me. You're blowing this out of proportion. We raised you. You think some lawyer changes that? I let out a short laugh. You know what else doesn't change? The fact that you stole from your own son. Mom scoffed, tears forming in her eyes. It wasn't stealing. We needed help. We knew you'd get it back eventually. Then why didn't you ask me? I snapped. Dad crossed his arms. Because you would have said no. And look. We were right. There it was. They knew I wouldn't give them money. So they took it anyway. I could feel my blood boiling, my hands clenched into fists. But I forced myself to stay calm. This ends today, I said. You're going to return what you took. And you're going to fix the loan mess. Mom burst into full-on sobbing. You don't understand. We don't have anything left. We're going to lose everything. Dad put a hand on her shoulder. His voice turned icy. You really want to do this? You really want to be the reason your own parents end up homeless? My stomach twisted. I won't lie, that one hit hard. It wasn't like I wanted them living on the streets. But that wasn't my responsibility. I sighed, rubbing my temple. You think this is my fault? You had years to save. You had jobs. But instead you banked on me funding your entire retirement. That's not how this works. Mom sniffled. But we're your parents. Then act like it. For the first time, they had no response. The silence stretched. Then Mom collapsed into a chair on my porch, face in her hands. We messed up, she mumbled. We messed up bad. Dad looked away, his jaw tight. I could see the shame creeping in. But then? He shook it off like it was nothing. Whatever, he muttered. We'll figure something out. I stared at him. No apology. No responsibility. Just pride and arrogance. Mom wiped her tears. If we drop everything, will you just help us a little? I clenched my teeth. No. Her face crumbled. But no, I repeated. You don't get to screw me over and then expect me to fix your mess. You don't get to manipulate me into feeling bad after everything you did. I stepped back inside, gripping the doorknob. Find another way. Because this door? It's closed. And with that, I shut the door in their faces. That was the last time I saw them. They tried calling, texting, emailing. All ignored. Then, a week later, I got an alert from my lawyer. My parents had dropped the fight. The fraudulent credit card application? Shut down. The co-signed loan? My name was removed. The stolen $4,500? Paid back in full. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd finally learn their lesson. I was wrong. A few months passed. Then one day, my cousin called. Dude, your mom's on Facebook talking things about you. I pulled up her page, and sure enough, there it was. Post after post about her. Cruel, selfish son. Who had abandoned his own family. We did everything for him, and in the end, he turned his back on us. The comments were worse. Distant relatives, family friends, all chiming in. How could he do this? Ungrateful little bastard. Parents sacrifice so much, and this is how they get treated? I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger. Not guilt. Just relief. Because for the first time in my life, I realized something. I didn't care anymore. I didn't care what they thought. I didn't care what they said. I was free. It's been 2 years since I cut them off for good. They still live in a small rental in Chicago, barely getting by. I heard through the grapevine that Mom still complains about me to anyone who will listen. I don't respond. I don't check in. I moved on. I got married. Bought a home. Built a life without them. And you know what? I sleep just fine. Because in the end, family isn't about blood. It's about respect. And if they couldn't give me that, then they never deserved me in the first place.